Good evening. Thank you for joining us for tonight's Inspiration webinar. Inspiration Software is the embroidery line of G7 and Designs and Machine Embroidery. Our Inspiration Software line includes My Block Piecer, My Quilt Embellisher, Perfect Embroidery Pro, and Perfect Stitch Viewer. Tonight's webinar features our Template Talk, the Essential Inspiration. We have a wonderful team assisting us tonight. Dory, manager of the tech support, Nancy R., Chris L. I would like to present to you our perfect embroidery maven who will bewitch us all with templates. So with no further ado, whisper sweet template secrets, Catherine.
Thank you, Dory. Hello, everyone. Before we get to our topic this evening, I want you to see all of the designs in Perfect Embroidery Pro free to you that start you on your way to Easter embroidery. All of these designs come from text designs, symbols, the free designs, and the monthly designs. So have fun. Tonight we will learn about the features that Perfect Embroidery Pro offers to repeat, to duplicate, and to copy objects. Some ways you're already familiar with. No doubt, copy and paste. But do you know the difference between copy and duplicate? If we do a copy, we click on a selected item, and we right-click, do a copy. It places the selected item on the clipboard until you paste it somewhere else. If I right-click and paste, that chick, the pasted chick, has gone directly to the original chick. I can drag that chick to another place. We can also do another paste right away without having to copy, and that chick is still in the clipboard. I can paste again and have a good time adding chicks. I also can move the original chick out of its position and paste again, and the chick is in that original position. If the clipboard is a term that's sort of vague to you, think of it as an empty drawer holding your item until you're ready to use it. It really is a temporary storage area, a memory location in the operating system. The clipboard in Perfect Embroidery Pro will hold one item at a time. It'll stay in the clipboard until we copy something else. We can even go to a clean screen. I have not done another copy yet. If I do a paste, the chick is back on the screen as she was in the other document, and she's ready for us to play. If I do a duplicate, I right-click and choose Duplicate. You see that my mouse changes to a crosshairs, and the duplicate allows us to have one step to copy, size, and rotate the item that we have duplicated. It will continue to allow us to do that until we stop. To stop the duplicate, you can either right-click with your mouse or come over here and select. The duplicate is a one-step. It is faster, but as you see, it is not as exact as our copy-paste.
Now, Catherine?
Yes?
I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you do us a favor, please, and unplug and then replug your microphone in for us, please?
All right.
Is that better for everybody?
Oh, goodnesses, yes. Thank you so much. Go ahead, please.
Certainly, would you like me to start again?
No, that's fine.
Okay, we'll go to a clean screen, and as we begin now with our templates, we have a number of them that are built in, and just to clarify, to make sure everyone understands, a template is a pattern or a decorative design serving as a pattern. We have a few up here at the top of our toolbar. You can see that they are currently grayed out because we have nothing yet on our screen. If we go and get a symbol under our select, the asterisk is a fun one to start with. I'll create one that's just about a ½ inch in size. I like to look at my threads here. And now with that item selected, we're going to go and begin with our first template, Repeat. If I click on Repeat, I see that asterisk has come into my design screen. The default is 3 across and 3 down. We have zero distance, vertical and horizontal, and some other things that at the moment we will leave with no check marks in them. If I apply and do an OK, I come to my screen and see that the default gives me those 3 asterisks across, 3 down, for a total of 9. And once again, we have no space in there. If I get another asterisk and we do a little playing with this one, we'll draw that up on the screen, and right-click will stop it. I'm going to select it. And just so you can see the difference, I'll change my color here. We'll go back into repeat, and this time we'll play a little bit. Let's make it 5 across and 5 down. I can click on apply, and we see that happen. And if we want to separate those just a little bit, let's do a 0.3 in distance. This is in inches. So a 0.3 not going to be very far apart, might look like it is right now on our screen, and we'll go ahead and OK that as well. And we see that we have a block of designs of the asterisks repeated. Here you see 2 different looks to the same design. Each of them would be quite lovely. What you're doing here is creating embroidered fabric. This design right here, as it is small, would be very lovely on a pocket, and maybe the larger area would be something very nice on the shoulder area of a jean jacket, or any area really on the jean jacket. There's so many fun places to fill. So we have 2 different looks right there. If we go again, we'll have a clean screen. This time we're going to go under our text designs for an object to play with. We're going to choose this cat. We'll change it to black so that you can see it a little better. I like my just very easy brother embroidery. I'm going to change that to black. My cat changes to black. I like to see my threads. We'll go right into repeat, and this time let's do a 4 by 4 and play a little bit with the horizontal distance. We'll put in a 0.15 for both of those. Apply that. You can see our multiple cats. But before we come out of here, let's play just a little bit with the flip horizontal and vertical so you can see what we have as options. If we flip the horizontal, we see that every other cat is mirrored. The little tails go together. You might like that look. If we flip vertically, we can see that the cats themselves are upside down. But we have all of these options for you to play. Let's come on back out to our screen and see that we have multiple cats. Once you have your objects on the screen, they are individual. You could select individual cats and do different things to them if you wish. For example, we can click on this cat here, and maybe we would like that to be more of a gold cat. We can come up and flip it horizontally so that just one of the cats are mirrored. If I take this cat and move him out of the way, I'm going to go back and get a different kind of cat for our composite here, and we will size him down so that he fits, and you're allowed to put a little scaredy cat in the mix as well. If you wish, we simply delete that cat, and here we have our embroidered square. We have the ability to create art if you wish. I have some things going on the screen for us already. We have the puppy dog and the snail. I'm going to take that snail and move him out of the way for just a little bit. Both of these designs have come from the text designs. Up here, if you notice in my notes, first of all, you might notice that I have a typo going on here. So we'll type in properly where those designs have come from, and we see that I've listed for myself the text designs, the puppy's number and the snail number if I want a reference as to where I got those. I love the notes area in the software. It gives you the chance to write yourself notes about this particular design, and whether you're doing this for fun, whether you're doing it for a job and you need to make notes about the customer's wants or needs, and certainly for me, if I'm doing something that I want to show you and give you the reference for those designs. So notes is very helpful. You'll see that I've used it throughout the evening. But let's select the puppy and we'll go back into repeat. And for this puppy, we'll go with 4 by 4 once again, but this time I want to change the distance to be 1 inch, both horizontal and vertical. As I apply that, the puppies are spaced out. I'm going to go ahead and OK that. My puppies are in place. I'll go and do the same thing with my snail. Snail is chosen. I go into repeat. I'm going to leave it at 3 and 3, but I'm going to put in the 1 inch and 1 inch horizontal vertical distance, apply that, OK it, and as that is created, we then can take those little snails as one group and drop them right in the middle of our dogs. Let's move over just a little bit for what we're going to do next. And you see that's very cute just on its own, but I also can select, I'm going to hold down my control key and select these 4 to bring those out of the way. And I'll bring Josh over here in this area. Josh is the word I had typed in preparation for this particular art. You can see that it's highlighted. I've used my Bauhaus font. Some of you were with me last month might remember we played with that. And also I have a phrase that I think is very appropriate. Well, Josh is selected. I think I'm going to size that just a bit so it's even at the end. But I'm going to take my phrase and drag that over here at the bottom. One of the things about this phrase you'll see over here in the font window is that this is a mini font, the Arial Small. I think last month when we talked about the mini fonts, it might have sounded as if I was giving you an option on needles and thread, but it really isn't an option. You do absolutely want to use a number 9 needle and a 60 weight thread when you're working with those mini fonts. But here we have some artwork. If I thought I had room for one of these snails, I could certainly position him back. I'm not quite sure if I have room for another. I think he will fit nicely, so I'll get rid of my extra puppies, take care of that. And what you have here, if you envision yourself embroidering this out on fabric and then taking that fabric and wrapping it around stretched canvas, you have created wall art for the nursery. So there's a lot of fun things that you can do with repeat by putting a couple things together. If you are planning to go to a family reunion, if you would like a maybe a little quiet message about one of the people in your family, you certainly could do this with your sheep. The sheep is under our text design right up here, and then when they're brought in as 4 across and 3 down, you can change one of those sheeps to black and again have some fun at the family reunion. Another thing with repeat, I have something created for us, and I am going to show you how I did that, but we see here a bowling pin and the actual triangle that the pins are set up as we go bowl. But let me show you how easy it is to do that. If I select my bowling pin and I go back up to repeat, I'm going to ask it for 5 rows, or I'm sorry, 5 number across and 5 down, and I set that in motion. They are all equal. So the other thing that I want to do is to come down here and offset every other row by 50%. The 50 is the default. I'm going to leave it like that, but I am going to set that particular check mark, and you see what happens to our bowling pins. Let's do the OK. I come back out on the screen. I'll move this up so you can see it, and watch how easy it is for me to turn this into a real bowling alley. I'm going to start with the bowling pins I don't need. I'm holding down the control key so that I can do multiple selects at one time. I'll take care of those. Here I need to leave 2, so let me select this one and the end 2. Delete those. I need 3 in this row, so I will take care of those 2 on the end. Here I want 4. I just delete that one. And you see with just a few deletes that I have turned in 1 bowling pin into the actual bowling alley triangle. So very easy to do. Up to this point, we have been using repeat in a very linear way. Let me show you what other fun that you can have with your repeat. Here we have some things that I've already created for you, but what I've done is to show you how that art started. These are all symbols units, so they all came from up here under your symbols. We have a two-headed arrow that is turned into 3 across and 3 down. We have a single-headed arrow that if I repeat is 4 and I flip every other row, I can do that like we did with our cats. And then if I copy and paste the whole unit, you see that you can start a braided look. This particular symbol is called a diamond, but if you set it, offset it, and then I removed just the one oddball that was here on this edge, gives a nice little area. Again, would be very pretty on a pocket or something small. In this situation, you can see that we started with the symbol that was the martini glass. I copied and pasted and changed the color and rotated to create another. Then this particular unit became what I used as my repeat, and you can see that this gives us a very southwestern look to some embroidery. If we begin with our pink ribbon, breast cancer ribbon, and we rotate it and then go into repeat, you see that it gives us a lace look. This one is quite fun. This one is the shark teeth, and you can see all of the different ways by using this one particular symbol in repeat. Let me show you how I did this look. We click on our shark teeth, we come up to our repeat, and as I go in, I'm going to leave it at 3 by 3, but here we're going to play with our horizontal distance and type in a negative 0.1 for each of them, negative 0.1, and as I do that and apply, you see that it really tightens up. Let's go ahead and flip every other one vertically, as I have here, and then we're going to offset our columns, and you see that by offsetting it, it dragged that middle column down, so this gives us more of a continuous look to those shark teeth. If we come out, you can see that it looks very similar to this one here. All I did in this instance was to leave it in its original position on the down, and we simply offset our rows, bringing our horizontal distance very close to each other, and so forth. So a lot of fun. And what I wanted to show you here is that you can play. You already know, if you've joined me in the 2 previous webinars, I'm a big proponent of playing with your software just to let your creative juices flow. So this was a way for you to see that not only can we be linear in our repeats, but we can also create a little bit of art. We have our next template is our circle. We'll call up a clean screen. We're going to go back into our text designs and get some hopping bunnies. You already saw them on that opening screen. We'll go get them. These little guys right here. And what I'd like to do is copy paste. We're going to do 2 separate things with our little bunnies here. Let me bring this down smaller so we can move one out of the way. Bring these guys over here. And what I'd like you to notice at the moment, these are the ones that are selected. This is the original position that they come in. If we go directly into repeat, oh, I'm sorry, we just did repeat. Let me cancel. We're going to go into our circle. And as we come into our circle template, please notice that the selected bunnies in this horizontal position is exactly in this position. So that whatever way that you have your original design, that is the starting position right here. It's kind of like number 9 on a clock. And then it will go ahead and rotate around a center origin. Our circle allows us to duplicate an object and place a number of copies around a central point. Now, with our circle, there's another thought that we have to keep in mind. If we look up here and we see width, the width and the height are set to 200 millimeter. If you like I am. When I think about 200 millimeter, I automatically think of my 8-inch hoop. So if I look at this and think, okay, this will fit into my 8-inch hoop, we have to backtrack a little bit because this is actually the circle size. Down here at the bottom, we see that the final size is really way outside that 8-inch hoop. So these are two separate things. We'll come back to this in just a moment when we do our rotate of our bunnies. We're going to play a little bit with our repeat. You see that, yes, you can increase to 9, we can go to 10, and so forth. What I want you to pay attention to is as we increase or decrease the repeats, the angle has to change. Mathematically, it just makes sense that if we're going to place a certain number of designs equally spread around a circle, then the angle of each of those has to increase or decrease appropriately. And you don't even have to worry about that because whatever you decide up here, the software will automatically create that angle for you. Let's come out of our circle, and for the first design we see that, remember that this was the starting position of our bunnies, and this is the look that we have. It's probably not the look you were thinking about, so instead let's select our second group and we are going to rotate until they are in the 90-degree position. At this point, let's go back into a circle. And as we come in, this is probably the look that we were thinking of when we wanted to do those hopping bunnies. We wanted them to hop around the circle, not necessarily flip upside down. Now, we need to address the size issue again, the circle size versus our hoop size. So instead of being 200 for our circle, what that represents is not so much the actual inner circle of our design, neither the outer circle. It can't represent the outer circle because this is larger than this number up here. But what it represents is the medium point between the highest point of the design and the lowest point. So the bunny ears are the highest, the grass is the lowest. So really that 200 millimeter positioning is right here in the middle of our design. So that's going to change depending on the design that you have, but it's something to keep in mind. When we want this design to fit into an 8-inch hoop, we can play around with our repeats. If we go with 7 and apply that, we do get a little smaller final size, but we are getting a gap. If we play with 6, we see that we're getting smaller, but still quite a bit of ways from our 8-inch square. So we might need to play with, if I put this back up to 8, we might need to play with size. Maybe we need to go to a 90% of the original. So I have 8 and I'm going with 90. I still have just a little bit of gap and I'm not quite in my 8-inch hoop. So what if I went to 80 and applied that and came out? Again, I'm a little shy of that size and I still have some gap in here. So what I might want to do, instead of getting the bunnies very small, how about if we come up here and try different sizes of the circle? If I change that to 180, and we'll put this back to 100 just to see, and I do that at 180 width, we can see a little bit of the grass is being overlapped and the bunnies are too close to each other there. If I try 160 and come in and apply, what we have here is very much of an overlap. We don't want that at all. So let's try maybe 170 and tweak it. We have just a bit here, so let's tweak the size again and we'll try that 85%, and we see that that is a very good measurement. We have 170 for the circle size. We have 8 repeats. We have an 85% scale, and we fit within our 8-inch hoop. If we go ahead and bring this to screen, we can see, yes, indeed, we have the look that we're after. Now, I bring this up, and we played with all of those numbers to bring a very important point to mind. Sometimes you do have to play, but you need to decide what's more important. Is the size of the finished bunnies what you are after, or is it the size of the hoop? So you have to make decisions when you are working with your circle. Let's come into another example here with our circle. We're going to get our flower garland from Text Designs. We'll come back in here. And just as a refresher, did you remember that you can come down in this find box? I happen to know the number of the item that I want. I can type that in and go to it. This happens to be my flower garland. I'll turn it on so we see the pretty stitches, and I'll shrink our screen just a little bit so we can see it. And as we come into circle again, we have the defaults at 200, 8 repeats, and it is 100% size. And it is very lovely. This would be a beautiful embroidery with some monogram in the middle, or perhaps a short poem, whatever you'd like to fill that circle. But again, we have to deal with what size hoop do we need, do we have to use for this embroidery. So let's bring this down to 100. I can apply that fits, that automatically fits into my 8-inch hoop, but you see we have altered the design a bit. I think this is very lovely. I very much like that center area, how it comes together. However, we do not have as much space for our font or lettering, probably just room for one letter, not a true monogram. So once again, we might need to play around with the width of our circle and maybe the scale if we want those 8. We'll just try here to see some differences. If we put this at 120 and apply it, we see that that does break it up. We have a little area in here more for lettering and so forth, and we're just a hair outside of our hoop. We can put that at 85% perhaps and apply that, and we see again a little more space in here, and we are definitely within our 8-inch hoop. So that would work. Let's put this back to 100, and we'll play with another area. If we apply here, this for the first time we're going to play in the individual pass settings, not the scale that we've been using, but the angle. Up to this point has been set to 0. Let's try a 45% and see what that does. Oh, and isn't that pretty? We have a circle with some little sprigs that stick out. If we try 90, we have another pretty design coming up, almost a full circle, just a little twig here and there. Very, very nice. We could up this to a 10 repeat and maybe the angle of 135 and apply that. And once again, we see another design. You can see where this would just be a very fun screen for you to come in and keep playing with the different things that you're working with. If we change this scale to 30 and brought it down very small, we see a very small hoop size, and the sprigs get very spread out. So let's put this back to 8 repeats. We'll set ourselves up here for something we're going to do, and 100 in our circle size, and I'm going to set my scale for 75 and apply that. And oops, let's put that angle back to 0. That's the look I was after. Let's do an OK. And as this comes up on our screen, let's just quickly go and grab another fun design that we can use with the circle. Again, I'll bring in my number 83033, and I'll ask it to find it for me. This is the one I want. I'm going to leave it right there in that position in the size that it is. Go right into my circle. And I can choose to set this as 100, 8 repeats. I'm going to change this to 30%. It was quite large. Let me apply that on my screen. Do an OK. It comes in. If we tweak it just a little bit with your rotate and place that in the center, you see what a beautiful design we can do with a couple of built-in designs that are always at your fingertips. If we were to do a number of them, you saw how we just played with 8 repeats, 10 repeats, angles, and so forth. You eventually could come up with a look like this, where you could do a quilt block kind of thing where each of these could be their own quilt blocks, different designs, and then this is the one that we just did in the middle screen. All right. We have, up to this point, we have been using the automatic rotate. Didn't even really talk about it, but let me show you the reason you might want to do something different. If we go into our circle, up to this point we have left the default right here for auto rotate, and you see what it does in this instance for our frog, where we had our frog on its head, and that's probably not what you're after. So if we take our auto rotate out and apply that, we see that the frogs are all in their individual positions looking at us as we'd like. And if we go ahead and OK that, it comes in on the screen. I'll just do an undo so you can see that I've already done it for us, and here's the frogs all set in an auto rotate not chosen. One other thing here I'll show you quickly. If we bring this up, what if we've played now with repeat and circle, what if we combined both of them? Here are the two designs that I started with. Both of them came from your text designs. If I took the lightning and placed it ever so on the musical clef, it rotated it just a bit, and here I brought this design right here right into our repeat. I have two repeats, one of which is mirrored, and then coming out on our screen, here's our design that is copy and pasted and mirrored, and then with this whole design selected, I came into our circle, and this is the look that we have. So once again, a little bit of challenge for you for your creativity is think of all the tools that you have and that you can use at the same time. All right, we'll stop there and catch our breath. Dory, do we have any questions at this point?
Ooh, there I am.
All right, we'll continue. Oh, there you go.
Yes. There is a couple things that we have been asked. One of them is the resorting of colors. Can you address that at all?
Absolutely. If I come in here to my frogs, where I have a number of frogs over and over again, I have already done a color sort. That's not a good one to choose. Then let me pick a different one. Where was with our chicks? We copy and pasted all of them. We have a number of the same colors over and over. So at this point, if I go in and choose all items, I can come down to edit, ask it to resequence by color, and it will do that for me, breaking it down then into the individual color stops. The other thing that we can do, if I choose, I'll choose one of these little chicks here, and I bring him into repeat, you'll see that, well, let's see, that's not a good example. We'll go back into our circle. If we go into our circle, we have an option right here. Auto resequence by color is right in this template, so we could use it. But if you ever forget to deal with it here, you saw that we can come out to the screen and then just do your edit, resequence by color.
Oh, excellent. Okay. Now, Linda has a question for you. She's just curious why Catherine isn't mentioning about using the auto. Of course, this just addresses it. Auto resequence color in the circle template when several colors are in the design. And you just explained that.
Okay, good.
All right.
Okay.
Yes. Will this work with designs that aren't built in?
Absolutely. I have a tendency to only work with designs that are built in so that you all have the chance to play with the work that I do. You can do it yourself on your own screen, but absolutely this would work with any design that you have. The trick to it is you need to select the design first. Here that's grouped, so we would ungroup it, but if we go back to our little bunnies here, We could choose any of these designs. These are built in, but the trick to the repetition, whether you're doing in repeat or circle, is you have selected the item first. That's what denotes what will repeat or be placed in your circle.
Excellent. Excellent.
Okay.
We have a lot of questions tonight. When overlapping designs in the repeat template, okay,
Yes.
do you have to remove the overlaps then before stitching them out?
It's a good idea to do that. For example, in this situation here, we can do that overlap. In this one, the grass itself is lightweight enough that there's just a little bit of overlap in there, so it wouldn't be necessary. But I'm going to show you something a little later when we do our shape that it would absolutely be necessary because it's more of a satin stitch. So you have the option if ever you wish to do your removal of overlap. And once again, I will show you that here in just a little bit.
Super. Okay, is there a difference between the resequence by color on the menu and on the screen?
You mean when we see it in the template and then when we see it right here under Edit?
Yes, you
Those
showed
two will
us.
do the same.
Yes,
they will do the same thing.
Super.
Yes.
One is just handier?
It is. One is just built right into our template because the wonderful programmers knew that that would be something you would probably want to do if you were doing multiples of the same thing. You're going to have repetition to your color, so they gave it to us right there on the screen. But if you forget, we always have the option to do the edit resequence.
Ah, very good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, we'll move on to our next template, which is reflection. We're going to open up some friends of ours here. And in this case, these are some other little bunnies that you have built in. And the only thing that I've added, these bunnies are from our text design. I've added this little flower here at the bottom for you to see when I flip. If I didn't have any flower there and I flipped it horizontally, you're not going to tell the difference since they are exact. They're little twin bunnies. So what we have here is I will select all of our objects. You are already familiar with two tools that cause a reflection. We have one up here that says flip horizontally, and if I do that, you see now the flower is on the other side. I can repeat that, and it goes back over to the right. We also have the flip vertical, which will turn something upside down. So you're probably already familiar with those. But in our reflection template that you'll find on the drop-down arrow under the circle template, second one here, what reflection does for us is it does a flip. It will flip a selected design both horizontally and vertically at the same time, and it creates 4 squares of the mirror object. It lets us control how many of the repetitions we'd like and where they may be placed on the screen. So here is the default. We see the 4. We see 4 because the default reflections are both chosen, horizontal and vertical. If we were to remove the horizontal and we do an apply, we see that we only have a vertical reflection. If we take out the vertical and put the horizontal back in and apply, we only have the horizontal reflection. But by default, it's going to give us 4. Now, here's something that's a little bit different. It might not act the way you thought it would. We have repeats. We can control this. If I choose 2 repeats and apply, what it is really doing, it has given me the reflection both horizontally and vertically of those original 4. Do you see right here is our original 4? So it took that 4 and gave it to me vertically. It took that 4 and gave it to me horizontally, and of course it's going to give us that 4th one that really is both a horizontal vertical reflection as well. So that might not be what you were thinking of. Certainly if we can continue, you see that you can fill up your fabric quite quickly with all of this embroidery, but chances are it might be just the one repeat that we are after of both of those. Once again, since that question did come up, I could do that auto sequence by color here, and it will automatically take care of it as I come out of my screen. Even though you may have noticed that I put those bunnies right at the center position, when you do a reflection, it will automatically place the 4 units of that reflection in the quadrants on your screen. I do have the guidelines up so that you can see how that works. I want to show you something else. If I undo that and I take my original, oops, don't want to do that. If I take my original bunnies, let's group those, and I bring them up, and I'm going to rotate them just a hair. And yes, that was an Easter pun. If I rotate it just a bit, and now I come back into my reflections, you can see that due to the original position, if I have that original position rotated, it's going to rotate that same look in our reflections. So here we have a little bit of ring around the rosy instead. So it's something to think about when you start your reflection template. Where was your original bunny? I have something else started for us to save a little bit of time. If I open up our X's and O's, bring our 3D on, let me back out just a little bit so you can see where these came from, just so you know that you have them available. They are under your text designs in the alphabet. If I were to scroll down here, they are in your floral alphabets right here. It's actually the O and the X from this built-in fonts. I'll cancel that out, and then I simply change the colors to be all blue or all pink. And notice, please, of the placement that I have for this O and this X. I rotated the X and placed it so it's just touching the quadrant line of both the vertical and the horizontal, and I do purposely have the O offset not quite in the original center. So as I select those items and I come back into reflection, we come up on the screen and you can see a very fun design looking similar to a Hawaiian design if you're familiar with those from quilting. Once again, my horizontal verticals are on, so I see one of each reflected in the quadrants. If I play a little bit, we have the angle set at 0. I can put that to a 45 and apply. See what that does. Rotates those zeros. I can change, put that angle back. I can change my distance to be 20 for both of those, and I get a different look. Those are separated. If I come in and put in a -20 for both of those and apply, I can see I have an overlap. Now, once again, we have that auto resequence by color right here in our template screen. If I did go ahead with this design, this would be one that I would really want to do, that remove overlap from these two. But if I come back, I'm just going to put a 0 angle in both of those to get my original look to my design, and I come back into my screen and you see that we have again an embroidered block. If you need this to be a perfect size, just like you know with properties of all of your embroidery, we can come up here. I can set that to be a 6-inch block, and it will adjust the sizes as necessary and then give me a very fun look for my embroidery. While we're talking about a Hawaiian block, if some of you like that look, I can show you how I came up with one. A couple of other things here. I have the steps in this particular one shown to you. These two shapes come from the motif shapes right here. I have selected both of them and turned them into artwork. I then have positioned the top one sideways to the lower one. And if you select both of those objects, you may notice that your weld tool becomes available. If I weld, I get this look right here. It puts them both together, and then I've simply taken this and positioned it in my quadrant the way I wanted it before I did the reflection. I have a bean stitch on that design, so it would be a true raw edge applique Hawaiian look, if that's something that interests you. We have this last one I can show you that raises the bar a little bit as to what we are doing with reflection. Again, I think that my job is not only to show you how to do something, but also to give you some extra whys, or just to inspire you a little bit and challenge you to raise the bar for yourself. There's no competition between anybody but just you. As we look at here, you may notice that here we have our little bunny fellas that we played with first. Remember, we tried these on the horizontal plane, we tried them on the vertical plane, and we had 2 different circles from that. But in taking our bunnies and going into our reflection template, we get 4 of them, as we see here. But with our bunnies, we do want to change just the vertical distance. And I'm going to type in a 5 there. This is millimeter. And I can go ahead and apply. And I have a little bit of separation in there for a reason. If I do an OK and come back to my screen, I actually just place the second group of bunnies on the first, so I'll do an undo so that you can see them. So there is the reflection of the bunnies, and all I did then was to come up here and take my artwork, my pen, and I just drew an irregular oval around and in between my bunnies, kind of hugging that grass, changed that oval into a complex fill and a wave stitch, and allowed that wave stitch circle to stitch over my bottom reflected bunnies, so that it truly does look like these bunnies are a reflection in your pond. So a little play there on our template.
Ah, very pretty.
Good.
Do you know how to get the grid lines up for your quadrants?
I do indeed. We come over here, I'll right-click on your ruler, and I can ask it to show the grids, and those lines will be there for me all the time. I have a tendency to, and this is a personal thing for me, for you, for anyone that uses the software. Some people love to create with the grids in place. I prefer not to, but there is certainly no right or wrong. And once again, just proves how wonderful our Perfect Embroidery Pro software is. It gives options. It knows we're all different. We all like to work in different modes, and so that grid is very easy. Always at your fingertips. On a right click on the ruler, and I can turn that grid off or on.
Super. And
okay.
Yes, and do you have quadrant lines as well?
I can set those. If I go into my grid settings, you have the ability to come in here. I have mine set at 1/2 inch apart.
Mm-hmm.
You can set those grid lines to be anything you wish to be. If you want to work in a more micro environment, you could set those to be a 0.1 if you wanted your grid lines, or you could set them at 1 inch, 5 inches, whatever it is that you want. You notice here that we do have them in inches.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. All right, we'll move to our next template, and this one is called Scatter. Once again, we will go get our asterisk, just to be a very easy one for us to play with. And I'm going to draw 2 because I want to show you something different. We have one here, and I'll just put one over here. We will select this one. We come into our, you'll find scatter also under the circle template. We come into a scatter. And when we first come into the screen, it's a bit of a different kind of look. We kind of do a, whoa, look at all of those jump stitches. But we know that we have many, many different designs all over the screen. This one, whereas in our circle, this was telling us the size of the circle, this in our scatter template is truly showing us the area. So if I really wanted this to fit in my 4x4 hoop, I can set that at 100 millimeter and know that that area is going to fit within that hoop. Even in doing that, you see we have less of our scattered design. This is personal. I like to set my minimum to be 50% of my original size, and the software defaults to 150, but generally I will size it to about the size that I want, so I usually come in here and put in 100. Again, that's just me. You might decide that you like it differently. As far as the auto-rotate with this particular design, we can't tell a great deal of difference, but it does give a little slight difference to some of our objects here. So we'll go ahead and apply that. We'll come back out with an OK, and we have scattered embroidery. Now, once again, we have a look of embroidered fabric. If you do this 4x4, your 8x8, or in your largest hoop, this is just beautiful. You have created fabric that is embroidered, and whether you use it on a pocket, on a collar, on a lapel, it would be absolutely beautiful. This does differ just a little bit. If I can find if I can remember what number, I think this is going to be a little difficult to see. I wanted to bring back up the difference. If I go back in here and do a repeat, you can see the difference between our repeat and apply that. Bring that back out to the screen. You can see the difference here. With scatter, it does just that. It is randomly distributed and sized, whereas if we do a repeat, it is a very controlled situation where the individual designs are kept in the same size and are equally spaced apart. So you have two different looks. We'll just change the color in those so that you can see the difference more easily. So a little bit of comparison between a scatter and a repeat. Once again, we can be creative. Whereas I love this idea to create your own embroidered fabric, you can also use your scatter in a fun situation. Let's go up here to our symbol and select. Just as we did over in our text designs to use the find, if I know I'm looking for pepper, and gosh, that's what we could call ourselves. We could be Peppers since we like our Perfect Embroidery Pro software. If I click once, I have my design on the screen. I only want one, so I did a right click. Before I continue, I'm going to do a little change of the color. I'll choose my golden top on my pepper, and I'm going to come back in here to my thread chart and make it a little bit more green on top. Oops, it's not what I wanted to do. I just wanted my, oh, look over here, silly. We need to ungroup that first. And I choose my gold, and I can right-click on the green to change the top. If I come over to the body of the pepper and make that orange, this for us is going to be a carrot in keeping with Easter. So we select our item. We come back under our templates for scatter. And as I come into my scatter template, I'm going to change this to my smaller hoop, my 100 hoop, and do my favorite with a 50 minimum and 100 maximum. But here I'm going to play with just a little bit of sort of a see what I can get. If I need more or less, I could change my minimum distance. The minimum distance, I certainly can put that at 0, but it's not going to mean that they're going to be on top of each other. But I could change that. It was a 1 millimeter, which is very small. But if I am looking at the scatter pattern here, I can click multiple times on my apply button until I see something that I like. And with a pattern like this, if you want to fill up the corners or you're looking for something more in the middle, you can continue to do so. When you find one you like, you simply do an OK, and we have our carrots on the screen. These are grouped. I need to ungroup them, and then if I sort of go in there and remove some of my carrots in this position, I'm going to drop them over there for the moment, and I don't even care that I have some tops left over. I'll just get rid of those with my delete key. And once again, I'm going to go into my symbols and find a little guy that's waiting for us here. Type in the first part of my word, and there's my rabbit. And if I bring him in to my screen, I can bring him down looking at all those goodies of the carrots, and then if I wish, I can select the individuals that I moved and position them where I might like them, fill in the holes and so forth. And again, with scatter, each of these are individuals, so if you don't like so much of a square look, if I want to remove this one and position it somewhere else, I certainly can do that. So you can have fun with scatter as well. I have another design partially started for us to show you that we can be serious with this as well. If I bring on my 3D, now I say serious, but what is a pear doing at the top of my sunrise? Well, let me select our pear. We want to ungroup it. I'm going to come over here and delete the yellow portion of my pear, and I'm also going to hold my control key down and select those runs and delete that. I'm left with the top of the pear. I'd like to change that to black. Go into my scatter template. Here again, I am going to change to my 4x4 hoop, so I bring that down and apply. Something that we've not yet done here, changed my minimum to 50 and 100, but my minimum distance this time I do want to be a larger number. I'm going to put in 15 millimeter there and apply it. This is the look I'm after, but for the first time I want to not rotate my designs. So I remove that check and I have all my designs looking like that. Again, I'm going to play with my apply until I see something that I like. Let me bring this in, and if I set that over my sunset, I have my birds or my seagulls that are flying off to the horizon. So you can do more art, or you can do something that was fun. If I open up one more to show you, we have the carriage, which is from your free designs in your PEP software, and then all these are just individual Z's with a Gesture Pro font choice, and I have chosen the Z and done the scatter and taken out some so that it looks like it's coming out the baby carriage. If we want to make this more personalized, if you're putting together a fun invitation or a cute little block on the baby's blanket, and you know that you have a girl, we certainly could change the carriage to be more appropriate. And one more to show you in the scatter, this a little higher level here, something that we can do. I have some parts of this already in place, because what we'd like to do here is to create a mat for a picture frame. So I have a border set. If ever you've created something and you forget where that came from, if I click on that border, I can come right over here to properties and it tells me that this is a symbol. So I did get this shape from my symbol, and it is a diamond 02, so that helps with my memory. But it is this object, the K loves P, right here in the center, that I'm going to come in and do a scatter. We're going to do something slightly different to this one. I know that my picture frame is a 5x7, so this time I'm going to work with my area, but I no longer want to keep them the same distances. So I'm going to remove the check mark there, and in here I'm going to put a 110 and 150 for my sizes, change to my favorite 50, 100. The minimum distance, I'm just going to give a little bit, get them tighter up in that rectangle, apply. Again, I could keep applying until I found what I liked. I'm just going to go and OK that. Might need to move that over just a little bit. And what I wanted to show you here is, you know already that you can remove individual pieces of these designs, but here's a way that you can do it quickly. If I bring this circle over onto my mat in a position where I want the picture to show, I right-click, convert that to a complex fill. I don't care what kind of pattern or anything that's there, but I do need to come up here and say move to front, because here is where I would come in and say remove overlaps, which was a question that we had earlier. I'm going to right click also and ask it to create a border, come over here in my sequence and choose the complex fill circle, move that out of the way to show you that that's exactly what happened. It did remove my overlaps. I can delete that circle. I no longer need it. If by chance I do have some leftover thread dots in there, I can ungroup this and then come in and delete anything that might be left over in that inner circle. But it's a very fun way for you to remove a certain area of your scatter in a particular shape without you having to go in and do that manually. So that becomes a very fun thing. All right, we have one last template to go. And very quickly I will show you what we have there as we go into our designs. We're going to pick our 95658. We'll go get it and bring that flower in. I'm going to size it down just a little bit, and I see that my time is getting tight here, so I will quickly show you under our shape template. We have the ability to take a design and go into different contours. We have a t-shirt neckline. I'm going to show you the default was a corner, which would be beautiful on the corner of a napkin or tablecloth, but let me show you with our V-neck. We come here and I can simply going to change this to a 5x7 hoop. I'll take out my aspect ratio and do a 180 by a 130 for my hoop. Apply that, scale down to a maybe a 75% in that design, come out to my screen, and I have a beautiful V-neck. If I want to, I can take each one of those and, oops, I didn't want to do all of them, so I will ungroup first, choose just this one and mirror it, choose this one and mirror it, and then I would like the look for the t-shirt in a V-neck. One final one is if I go get, I'll show you right here with bugs. In this design, I have selected, I started with just one of these groups here, and as we do that, we can come in with a group, choose our shape, and a very fun one is to choose the contour for wave. And if you do this, as I have done, and we place them in that position, I have done an OK, but I'll do a cancel there. And then we simply copy and pasted one other one to put in this position. And if we back off just a little bit more, you can see that that's a very fast way for you to create a continuous border. If this was your first hooping of stitching and I copy, paste that, and pretend that we are doing our second stitching, you see that we have a continuous border. How easy that would be for you to create. Okay, Dory, do we have any questions here?
We had a ton of questions, but all our friends.
And I talk too much.
That's okay. We learned a ton tonight. Thank you so much. I must remind everybody that if you would love to see this all over again and again and again, and I do, go to the webinar page, go all the way to the bottom, and select this webinar. It is dynamite. Thank you so much, Catherine.